Catholic TV. We have a special guest here today who teaches autism awareness. Her name is Jacqueline Williams.
Hi, Jackie. Good morning.
So good to have you here today.
Thank you for having me, and happy World Autism Awareness Day, everyone.
Yes, got to wear our blue. We're wearing our blue to support.
Thank you.
I'm hoping and I know that you can manage this and more, that we can inform the public today and the community and let everyone know all about autism awareness,
Yes.
signs, symptoms, ages, everything. And Jacqueline is also an author. I'm not going to tell you everything. I'm going to let Jackie talk though, so you begin here wherever you want.
Let's see. Well, I have a lot of hats that I'm wearing, as you well know. I am an autism awareness advocate. I am the CEO and founder of No Small Victories, which is a program under the Martin Luther King Family Services. And our aim and dedication to the community is autism awareness and education to really facilitate inclusion for our families. So we're going to be doing a lot of work in the community, and I'm so excited, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm also a graduate student and hope to be graduating pretty soon this summer
with your master's.
Yes, master's in education and autism, and hoping to be sitting for my boards to become a board certified behavior analyst in the fall.
Wow.
So really, really excited about that.
Awesome.
And you know, I think most importantly, I'm a mom
Yes.
of now 18-year-old.
He's 18.
18-year-old on the spectrum.
My goodness.
And doing awesome, just an overall awesome kid. I'm so proud of him. So
I can tell. I can tell.
Yeah, a little partial to him.
He's such a sweetie,
yes,
too.
Yes, he is. He's such a good kid.
You've done so great for yourself. I mean, we went to junior high together. Me and Jackie know each other for
many
a long
moons
time.
ago.
Yeah. We don't want to tell them how many moons, but
we keep that quiet.
But Jackie, share with the audience today what has driven you with the autism. I mean, I know your son was diagnosed.
Right.
Share that with us, please.
Initially, it was definitely about advocating for my son Joshua and making sure that we had the right supports in place, whether that was therapeutic or educational, social supports, wanting him to be able to navigate his community and have realistic relationships outside of his family. Yeah. So it was so important to me, and I found that like a lot of other challenges for families, we weren't able to kind of quite make him fit the mold. Yeah. So it became my job as a mom and an advocate to kind of start trying to redefine that mold for him. Mm-hmm. So, you know, just in that journey, I really started to realize that to be effective, I needed to be more educated. Yeah. You know, I initially did as much research as possible, and back when my son was diagnosed, there really wasn't a lot of information out there.
Exactly.
So, you know, I was kind of going at it piecemeal and doing whatever I could, and I say now as a therapist, I took the kitchen sink method of just trying anything and everything. So in hindsight, I'm not sure what worked and what didn't, because everything kind of happened at the same time. And then just deciding that, you know, I wanted to really be an effectual advocate for other families. So at that point, after a 20-plus year hiatus from college, I went back to school to get my bachelor's in human services, and then went on to pursue my master's in autism and education in autism. So that's just been my journey, wanting to be as educated as possible and to really be able to give something viable to the community and to other parents who are struggling with this diagnosis.
He must be so proud of you. He must be like your number one. I mean, me and my son are close, so I know.
Oh yeah.
It's a great thing.
But I think I'm like his biggest fan.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, despite all of the challenges that autism brings to him, this kid has the heart of a lion. He and such a sweet temperament that nothing really bothers him except for, I think, when he thinks he's disappointing me. So to see him really excel at something he loves, like now he's into dancing.
I read that you wrote about that. And I was like, wow.
Dancing for his high school team and bringing awareness to his dance team and to the school. So I'm just so proud of him because he just has that sense of tenacity, like, And I think that's a trait with a lot of our children on the spectrum. Once they find something that they like and that can really engage them, they're usually phenomenal.
Yeah.
So he's so focused and so driven and such a sweetheart. So
yeah,
big fan of his.
Understandable.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, there's so much people really don't know about autism.
Yes.
And I think when you hear the words, like, people think automatically it's some debilitating mental health illness or something. And they don't realize sometimes it's a matter of channeling that energy and, you know, whatever it is that's going on into a different arena, and that's why they blossom. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, because I kind of went through that with my kids. Were very rambunctious, and the doctors were ready to diagnose them with the ADHD. But I, you know, got them into music, got them into whatever they liked, and they excelled in those things.
Exactly. You know, I think it's important for us as parents is to really get to know our children as individuals. And, you know, I think sometimes when we're in that parental role, we don't stop to really take the time to develop that type of relationship as an individual, one-to-one. And just being able to see where they shine, where their focus is. One trademark of autism is that our children often have very narrow fields of interest. So sometimes, you know, I hear parents say, all my child wants to talk about is dinosaurs. Well, maybe he'll be a paleontologist.
There you go.
You know, if your child's obsessed with airplanes, exploit that. You know, get them into engineering programs.
Exactly.
I think that sometimes our children can be so focused and they're so, it's almost like this laser precision when they're focused on something. So I'm thinking, like, really support whatever it is that they find an interest in. And, you know, it can be difficult for parents because it is such a spectrum disorder, and it can vary in severity. But I think all of our children have something to offer.
And it's quite notable that it tends to be very, it's a difficult way that we raise our kids in this day and age. It's no longer the mom stays home, the dad goes to work. It's both people work, or it's a single mom household. So I understand completely when you're saying, you know, you got a lot of stuff going on that sometimes we don't catch everything. So
and it's kind of disheartening sometimes because what we see a lot in the autism community is a lot of times families become polarized, where you kind of have one parent may be this super advocate and has blinders on, and the other parent may, you know, just be kind of taking care of all the other stuff and not be so focused on the advocacy. And a lot of times the siblings get lost in the shuffle because you're so focused on the child with the diagnosis. So it can be hard. It can be very stressful on a family unit if, you know, in fact, you even have two parents in the home. So I applaud single moms or single dads, for that matter, who are really out there trying to do it all by themselves.
Amen.
It's very difficult.
You know what the best thing I heard this year was? My son has blessed me with 2 grandchildren, and I just got so blessed the day he turned around and said, "Ma, I don't know how you did it."
Yes.
And I said, you know what? Had a lot of help from Jack Daniels.
I tell you,
Just kidding.
I'm a grandparent too, so, and you know, I've been blessed with really phenomenal children, and I love my grandchildren to death. I only have one locally, my other 2 out of state, but the one that's here, he's like the best part of my day.
Isn't it? It's just great.
It's so crazy.
I love being a grandma. I do. I really do.
I spend all my day working as a therapist on my knees with little ones, and people say, "Aren't you tired by the time you get home?" But if I swing open my door and he's there, I'm still on my knees playing, and you know, I'm that grandma where we're down pretending to be lions and you know, playing with puzzles and stuff, and it really rejuvenates me. It's probably the biggest blessing I've ever had, and I'm fortunate. My son and my daughter-in-law are amazing parents in their own right. Both are full-time employed, and both are college students as well.
Oh, good.
So you know, we have a very supportive family unit where we're kind of sharing duty when they're in
Yeah.
class and vice versa.
And that is so important
you
too,
have
because
to. You have to.
you have to have a support team network, even if
Yeah.
it's not your own family. I was blessed to have a lot of close friends and people that knew the family or babysat me when I was a baby, and you know, they just all pitched in and helped me, and it just happened. I mean, it was God. It was definitely the Lord.
It takes a village, and you
Yeah.
know, I think that's what's my biggest message to my community is that autism can be so isolating for our families. You know, historically in the African American community, our survival kind of depended on how we were perceived in the community, and even now, especially in light of a lot of the current events. So oftentimes our parents, you know, because they're not equipped to deal with different behaviors, we tend to self-isolate. So hoping that through more education, we will build better supports for our families.
Right.
Yeah.
So where exactly in the community can people reach out to?
I am at the Martin Luther King Family Services
Okay.
on 3 Rutland Street in Springfield. And, you know, we're building some really good programming and hoping to keep building in the community and going forth. We're just really getting started.
Great.
But
So
I'm
it's
so
in the
excited.
Mason Square area.
Yes.
But it's going to expand.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
That's really wonderful. Well, we're going to take a short break because we are on a time schedule here. Me and Jackie's going to sip our coffee for a minute, and we'll be right back with you. Stay tuned.
For more information on Those Small Victories Community Organization, contact MLK Family Services located at 3 Rutland Street in Springfield, Mass. Phone number 413-746-3655.
A boy born in Joplin, Missouri was fascinated by anything with wheels and a motor. The odds of him going on to fascinate millions with his talent? 1 in 260,000. The odds of this born racer having 157 career top 10 finishes in NASCAR? 1 in 125 billion. The odds of him winning both the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same year? 1 in 195 million. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 110. I'm NASCAR driver Jamie McMurray, and my niece has autism.
Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Praise him with the timberland dance. Praise him with the sound of the trumpet. Praise him with the Cyprian harp. Let everything that happens praise the Lord. Praise him with timberland dance. Praise him on the heights of his cymbals. Praise him with fingers to lift. Let everything that happens praise the Lord. Oh, magnify the Lord. Magnify the Lord with me. Magnify the Lord. Oh, magnify the Lord with me. Magnify the Lord. Magnify the Lord with me, magnify the Lord, let us exalt his name together. Praise him with the timberland dance, praise him with the sound of the trumpet, praise him with the Cyprian harp. Let everything that happens praise the Lord. Praise him with timberland dance, praise him with the heights of his power, praise him with string instruments. Let everything that happens praise the Lord. Oh, magnify the Lord, magnify the Lord with me, magnify the Lord. Oh, magnify the Lord with me. Magnify the Lord. Magnify the Lord with me. Magnify the Lord. Let us exalt his name together.
Maybe he's really focused.
Hey, Michael. Michael. Maybe he likes spinning the wheels.
Maybe he just loves trucks.
Maybe he's just being a boy.
Preoccupation with objects is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
Welcome back to TC's 413 Community Cafe with Jacqueline Williams. And she's here talking to us and informing us all about autism. And we've got a lot to cover. And right now, Jacqueline's going to get into the age groups and the levels and identifiers.
Right. And I would just like to kind of preface what I'm about to say and say that I'm definitely reaching out to the African American community. One of the things that I found out, which was kind of disheartening and a little alarming, is that in our community we're experiencing almost an 18-month diagnostic disparity behind everyone else. And the reason why that's so significant is early intervention, for the most part, ends on the child's 3rd birthday. So if you have a child that's being diagnosed around 18 months, 2 years old, you have a really limited window to get them in to get early interventive services, which are so critical to build some of those skill sets before they enter into the school system. So for us, we're missing that window.
Yeah.
You know, we're getting diagnosed so late that by the time they get diagnosed, they're already 3 or beyond. So it's really important for us as a community to really know what the developmental milestones should look like, what some of the red flags should be, if we, things that we should really be concerned and take into consideration and really bring to our pediatricians' attention.
Attention, right.
You know, I know that, and we laughed about that last time when I was saying that there's a saying a lot of times in our community is we don't go to, psychotherapists or, other therapists, we take it to God. Well, that's good and fine. And definitely, I trust me, I pray so much. And I have to, and thank God that God has always been there for me to see me through the storms, but definitely be aware, so that you can consult your pediatrician and get those diagnoses, because without a diagnosis on paper, you're not going to get services.
Right.
That's basically your first block there. So just to talk a little bit about autism, traditionally what it was, autism was 5 separate diagnoses. And just recently, I believe it like 2 years ago, they changed the diagnosis in the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, 5th edition. And prior to that, there were 5 distinct diagnoses under that umbrella. There was classical autism, PDD-NOS, which is pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified, which classic autism is usually what people think about when they see children who may be nonverbal, who may have limited physical abilities, they may have some challenges in that respect, more of a severe diagnosis. PDD-NOS was kind of the catch-all diagnosis when children didn't meet the other stricter criteria. They kind of were a little of this, a little of that, a little of the intellectual, a little of the social, and the communication, but across the board, they were kind of midstream. And then we had Asperger's syndrome. Usually and I laugh because I think a lot of people's reference is still Rain Man when they think Asperger's, they think the autistic savant who can count matches
and win the lottery.
That real extreme stuff. But that, usually children who are, or individuals who are diagnosed with Asperger's have pretty good IQs, intellectually very intelligent, but they may suffer from more social skill deficits. So they're kind of what people think about when they think of the quirky, genius.
Yeah. Are they closely related, Asperger's and autism?
I think that they're closely related because it is a spectrum disorder, so it's varying degrees. If you think about it in terms of a gray scale from white all the way to black, they're just different shades within those diagnoses. So even a child...
That makes it tough, huh?
Yeah, it is very tough because 2 children with the same diagnosis can be very different. Right. But they all carry the hallmark of having deficits in communication, social skills, and sometimes intellectual deficits.
So, and what you were saying earlier about how if autism is not caught early, when, say, they, start school age, like in the urban communities, because the lack of getting it caught early and attended to, that must really affect schooling and set them back some.
It's very difficult because what we're seeing is a lot of times our children go into school without the supports that they could have gotten through early intervention, and because they have difficulties with communication, they may have a lot of off-task behaviors, tantruming, a lot of things that maybe look like aggressive.
Yeah.
So a lot of times they're looked at as they're having behavior problems.
They
actually have a diagnosis.
Right.
So
they're just acting out frustration.
Very frustrated because they don't have that ability to convey their needs. They lack those communication skills. That could be taught a lot in early intervention. So that's why it's really important for us as a community to really know some of the milestones. One of the things that I work really closely with as an organization is we are now a member of Mass Act Early. And what that is a state chapter of the CDC's Birth to 5 Early Intervention Initiative. So as a state member, one of the things that we're looking at No Small Victories is what are some of the cultural contributors that are inhibiting the African American community from getting an early diagnosis? I think a lot of times, and we hear it in our family members, we try to justify things. I mean, we do with a lot of ailments, with high blood pressure. We'll say, oh, if I just don't eat this and go lay down. Well, same thing with autism. We'll say, well, his father was quiet. He didn't talk until he was 5. And we make these self-justifications. And instead of really trying to educate ourselves and actively seek out a diagnosis if it's necessary. So I just wanted to kind of go through some of the red flags we should be aware of and some of the diagnostic milestones that our children should be making at certain ages. The CDC has this wonderful tool that they have called the Birth to 5 checklist. And it actually is broken down from months, from the child being 2 months old all the way up to age 5.
Wow.
And it's free, it's downloadable, and it's really amazing. And so for instance, at 2 months, your child begins to smile at people. They'll start to be able to self-soothe through maybe sucking their thumbs or playing with things, touching blankets or things like that. They'll start to seek out their parents' face and really give them that eye-to-eye contact. Cooing, turning their head towards sounds. So a lot of times we'll hear parents will say, well, I just thought maybe it was an issue where he had a hearing problem. And it could very well be hearing, but it could also be a early sign of autism. So things that they don't do is they don't respond to loud noises or watch things that move. So if you have a mobile on top of your kid's crib, they may just totally ignore it. And that's as early as 2 months. For 4 months, they may not watch things as they move. They don't smile at people. They don't hold their head. They don't bring things to their mouths. So even pacifiers, around 4 months, children are starting to bring those things to their mouth. You may not see that with a child who could be on the spectrum. Let's see, skip ahead.
How about walking and talking when they start doing that? Is that something that's slowed or?
Well, yeah, I was just skipping to year 1. They don't crawl. They may, they may not stand when supported. And usually early on, you hold a child up, they'll start to kind of try to find that ground with their feet. You may not see that with a child around 1. On the spectrum. They don't see single words like mama, dada, or look for things if you hide them. That's usually around that time where you start to kind of play the hide and seek and the peekaboo. You may not get a reaction from a child on the spectrum at 1. And a huge red flag, as I said before, if you've seen those skills start to develop and all of a sudden you start to notice that they're not doing things that they used to and they're starting to regress, really, really big red flag. So, definitely check with your pediatrician if you see that, because that's actually what happened to me. My son regressed back to being totally nonverbal.
Wow.
So, and then we kind of had to start all over again teaching. But yeah, definite red flag.
Say you go bring the child to the doctor and you suspect there may be autism or something going on. How do you get that ball rolling? I mean, some pediatricians I know, well, back in the days when I had my children, they were pretty like, you go in, and you know, it was very hard asking questions. They gave you just really quick answers and kind of shooed you out the room, you know. And one thing I've learned over the years is, it was stressed to me, ask questions, keep asking, you have that right. But when it comes to getting them to test your child for autism, I mean, it's probably more, and the doctors are more involved in doing that on their own today. Is
yeah,
it
you know, I think that's
or?
happening. But I still hear from parents that, you know, they'll go in with concerns and the doctor will say, well, you know what, it's a little early. Why don't we wait a few months, come back in 3 months, come back in 6 months? And we're wasting critical time because these children need early intervention. So I would say the best thing to do for parents, there's a diagnostic tool called the MCHAT, M-C-H-A-T, all caps. And that's usually what a lot of doctors use. And it's just a questionnaire. For parents, you know, you can Google it, look at it, make yourself familiar with it, understand the questions that the doctors are asking you, because a lot of times in our community there's this disconnect from what we say and what we mean. You know, a lot of times we don't want to be perceived as having poor parental skills. So we kind of tone things down and we'll say, oh, well, yeah, he kind of does that sometimes. Well, you know, the doctor really needs to have a clear picture if there are delays going on in the home. So we kind of have to get past that stigma and really address the questions on this questionnaire and give some concrete information so they can help get that diagnosis.
I mean, I used to worry so much about, you know, because I went to school for nursing, when I asked too many questions, oh, they're going to look at me as a hypochondriac parent. And then one day I said, forget that, I'm going to, I want to know.
It's like they say, there is no stupid question. You know, if you don't know, ask. It's your right, and, you know.
Well, we're going to take a short break, and we'll get back on talking more about autism with Jackie. So we'll see you shortly.
For more information on Those Small Victories community organization, contact MLK Family Services located at 3 Rutland Street in Springfield, Mass. Phone number 413-746-3655.
Learn the facts versus fiction.
Autism is the fastest growing disability in the United States with an 1,148% growth rate.
Often, I'm the only person that you'll meet in college that has Asperger's.
For every girl diagnosed with autism, 4 boys are diagnosed.
I have autism, and if I talk to you, you'll have autism too. After people figure out I have Asperger's, they treat me different.
Because I drink milk, I'm autistic.
Because I have autism, I'm a rock star. Because I have autism, I can breathe underwater for 4 hours.
April is Autism Awareness Month, and we want to bring awareness to a serious issue.
Hey, this is Griff.
I'm Shannon Nash.
And I'm Tommy Ford. April is Autism Awareness Month.
Get the facts about autism.
Let's talk about it.
Together,
we can change the future.
Brought to you by Actors for Autism, the Arlen and Tony Griffin Foundation, and Easy Breezy Productions.
What if you could invest in the future? The future of kids, like a stock. Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow. My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
Choices. Some are minor, others life-changing. But what if your small choices matter the most, like the stairs or the elevator, baked or fried? What if these small choices determine if you'll be the 1 out of every 3 women who die of heart disease this year? These choices might not seem life-changing today, but women are dying of heart disease at the rate of almost 1 per minute. Luckily, it's mostly preventable. Choose to act. Our hearts, our choice. Make your choice at goredforwomen.org.
Welcome back. Jacqueline is about to tell us about some of the books that she's written, and they're quite exciting. And a lot of it is based on your son, Joshua.
Yes.
And his upbringing. And tell us all about it.
Well, the first book is Joshua and the Star-Tabulous Dream Maker. And this book actually was the first, and it was kind of like a catharsis for me. I was dealing with a lot of the depression and the anxiety and the isolation of autism, and just really concerned that, you know, as parents, you want to know that your children are going to make friends. And he was around that age where he was starting to want to go outside and play with the neighborhood kids. And, you know, as a parent, and I say professed playground police, you know, I was always worried, is he going to be bullied? Are the kids going to think he's different? Are they going to think he's, you know, weird? So I started talking to the kids on the street and just really talking to them in a manner that they could understand about autism. And from there, you know, my sister-in-law at the time, because I've always written, said to me, you really should write a children's book. And you know, I hadn't never thought about it. And then I said, well, okay, so we'll try it. And I wrote this book, and it really kind of just looked at what some of the challenges that he had during the day. And ironically, the book doesn't even mention autism. It just kind of talks about him feeling isolated, you know, dealing with some of the sensory issues that he was dealing with, feeling, you know, a little different, really focusing on very narrow fields of interest and things like that that kind of set him apart. So from that book, we actually went on, and I went and I applied for a grant through the Springfield Cultural Council to do some events. And from there, I went on and I wrote the second book, and it's called The Adventures of Suther Joshua from Planet Yethakan.
Aww.
And, yeah, and this one, I love it because it's actually a play on words, and it is actually, he's saying, and I'll give you a little spoiler, he's saying, I'm Super Joshua from Planet Yes I Can. Okay, but this book really talks about a phenomenon that we see sometimes in autism called echolalic speech. Now, what happens with echolalic speech, and I always give this example that as I'm speaking, your mind's already pulling information from what I'm saying and is forming a reply.
Right.
What happens with children with autism is they have difficulties doing that. So sometimes what you'll actually hear back is they may actually repeat back exactly what you say. For instance, my son, you know, if you said to him, hi Josh, he would say, hi Josh. He didn't know that he had to use your name. Or you may hear what we call scripting. You know, sometimes our children are so involved with cartoons or movies, so they'll start giving you dialogue from movies. And that's a way for them to communicate. And another phenomenon that's also examined in the book is what we call perseveration. And when I talk about that, when we talk about children having really narrow fields of interest, you know, I say children may only want to talk about cars or wrestling. And for Joshua at the time, he was doing horseback riding therapy. And he was obsessed with his horse, Delta. So it's a cute story, and it really talks about a true story of how he taught himself how to ride a bike, but just really giving that information to his peers, what echolalic speech was about, and the perseveration, so they were able to kind of understand some of the things that they were seeing with him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that was fun. That was, and the kids love it because they see the superhero on
right.
the film.
It gives them, you know, some optimism and some hope, and
so
that's great.
And from there, we went and I continued to write, and I'm self-published, so I finally got the money together to write this one, and this is called Joshua, That's So Slimming. And another cute play on words. Most women, we can understand, like we hear that, we love to hear something that makes us look nice and svelte, and slim. But it's a cute play on the game. If most of us, and it's probably giving away our age, if anyone remembers the game Post Office, where you kind of whispered something in your friend's ear and they whispered something, and the message would kind of like change because of what we thought we heard. So in this book, it's kind of talking about how we think, you know, we hear something or we see something, and the message gets lost in translation. So a lot of times what we see, and it's a phenomenon called stimming or self-stimulation. Sometimes we see children in the public like wringing their hands or rocking back and forth. And traditionally, that was thought to be a way for them to really self-calm themselves from being overstimulated from, sensory input coming in from the community. And that's true for some children. But I've also learned as a therapist, sometimes we're not sure why they're doing what they're doing. It could be because, we do this and everyone comes running, so it's attention seeking, or, it could be I'm getting some type of sensory input from that movement. So it's a little different from every child, but it's really a way of introducing that to the public so that doesn't become another marker to make them kind of stand apart.
Right. Wow, there's so much to identify.
Oh my God, it's so
and
much.
It's like many of the things that you're associating this with are things that everyday children that are considered your average child, they identify with this, and they're not diagnosed with autism.
Exactly.
Many of the things you've said, I've noticed that's happened with my own children. It's happened with myself, a few of those things. And I couldn't say it's something I grew out of, or I don't know. It's just, some of those things, you've seen them.
And what's so,
and it's
so funny, because I've had an adult with on the spectrum say to me, you know what, everybody stems. And I'm thinking, well, not really. And they said, well, what do you do when you're nervous or you're upset? And a lot of women, we do it. We'll start talking, and you see that feet shaking, and we do, because I know I'll do it. And it's so unconscious, but it's almost a way. Okay, I'm keeping myself in check. I'm keeping myself in check, and everything else is composed. But that foot is shaking.
It's gone. It's gone.
And,
it's going to town.
Yeah, and I never thought about it like that. And that is actually a way of self-stimulation.
Yeah.
So
I've been doing that since I was a baby. My mom says.
But I never thought about it until that person brought it to my attention that we all do it. But I guess it's I guess it's just sometimes more noticeable.
Yeah, it's better than smoking.
Yes. And then my fourth book, and this is my latest, and I'm so proud of this one. This is called Joshua, I'm Over Here, and this was actually written with my older son Robert. So this one's really dear to my heart, because not only does it look at the phenomenon that sometimes our children with autism have a difficult time making or sustaining eye contact. And in this story, we also look at the difficult time that the siblings have. There's so much focus on the child with the diagnosis. And sometimes the siblings feel a little left in the shuffle. So this was a way for me to kind of give voice to our siblings, to let them know that we hear you. Sometimes parents, we get so involved with advocating for our other child that, but we haven't forgotten you.
Right.
So it's this cute story that that Robert and I wrote, and it really kind of looks at when he was about 10 or 11 and really wanted to be this big brother, and wanted to have this relationship with Josh, who's then a toddler. And it looks at all these cute things that he's doing, trying to get Joshua's attention, and not understanding why Joshua won't make eye contact. So really looking at the anxiety, the depression, all the fears and the emotions that parents go through when they get that diagnosis. The siblings go through the same thing. So I just
what affects one person affects the whole
exactly.
household.
It affects the whole household, and I think sometimes we forget that the children, when parents, because it is a grieving process. Once you get that diagnosis, you no longer have the child that you had yesterday.
But this accomplishment here is just, I'm just so astounded. It's like wonderful, because you make sure you're covering all bases.
I was trying.
Keep your household aligned, and so many women, I'm sure they look up to you. Jacqueline is a powerhouse, let me tell you, powerhouse. But
I try.
Wonderful. You for Mother's Day, girl, you should be pampered and everything.
For Mother's Day, I just want to sleep. It's
I bet.
By the time everything is said and done, I'm just usually like, just let me get to my bed. But yeah, it's been such a good journey, and if I can be an advocate for other parents who don't have a voice or don't feel like they have a voice, that's what I want to do ultimately. Just
especially
to be there to
in the
support
urban
other
community
parents.
when we're so inhibited with
Yeah.
coming out, and,
Exactly.
you know, and
Exactly.
accepting it too, because a lot of times and it may not just be in the urban community. There's, you know, all different nationalities. There's a lot of parents I know, even including myself, there were times I said to myself, no, my daughter isn't like that. You know, you
Yeah.
couldn't tell me my daughter was a bad kid, or my daughter was doing something wrong, or my son wasn't doing something wrong, you know. And sometimes I've seen that in other people, where if you try to tell them something, they get totally,
Yeah,
you know,
I think
a
for us,
wall put up.
we just, we're so conscious of living under the specter of being, you know, stigmatized, of people are going to think it's something I did wrong, it's drug related, it's alcohol related,
Exactly.
or is some type of parental neglect. So a lot of times we don't want to, you know, bring that to the forefront because we feel so judged all the time. So, you know, it's really important that we do speak about it and really educate, especially our extended family. It's really important to have that support system in place.
Yeah.
So, and briefly, just the last book was actually a discussion guide that I just finished. So my goal is to get these within the school system for
That would be great.
Yeah, you know, we have so many kids going into the school system now, and they keep calling it inclusion by putting our children in these mainstream classrooms. It's not true inclusion, it's proximity. We're just putting our children in there, and we're not explaining it to the other children. We're really not supporting our staff to be able to understand what autism is. So, you know, until we have a global understanding, it's not true inclusion. So I'm hoping that this will help.
Yeah, I think it'd be great if the teachers are all taking a separate workshop or something to be prepared on this. Yeah, and then counselors in school too.
Yeah.
But wow, you really are setting a tone here, and she's getting things out there, and we're hearing so much about autism, but this is a woman that is actually making moves. So keep your eye out for Jacqueline, and we'll be back.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Are your kids getting enough art? Whether through poetry, dance, music, or drama, the arts open the doors to creativity. As a mother and teacher, I know that arts education can help our children develop confidence and a better understanding of the world around them. Even if you have just 30 minutes a week, get your kids more involved in the arts and think about the kind of world we can leave behind for our children and our children's children.
Art. Ask for more. AmericansForTheArts.org.
Hey, you going out like that?
Yeah, why?
Well, what would the neighbors think?
I see you! Come look at Mr. Feather! Look what I have. Mr. Bird, remember? Bark, bark, bark! We're just playing! We're just playing! I'm trying to get you out of here!
Even still.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
If you would like to be a guest on TC Eckstein's 413 Community Cafe, drop us a line. Email us at 413communitycafe@gmail.com.
And we're here with Jacqueline, and now we're going to talk more about the Autism Awareness Fair coming up. And she's going to mention how you can get in touch with her and the right people and avenues to branch out to. And take it away, Jackie.
Thanks. Well, first I want to talk about our initiative, No Small Victories. As I said, I am the CEO and founder of No Small Victories, which is a program under the Martin Luther King Family Services in Springfield. And you know, one of our biggest objectives is teaching the community about the signs and symptoms of autism so that we can get early diagnosis and really start to combat the diagnostic disparities that we're seeing in the African American community. You know, it's so important that we do that educational piece in our community and beyond our community. So 3 of the initiatives that we have started, and I'm so excited about, we've started 2 separate support groups, one for mothers called WARM, W-A-R-M, which is Women's Autism Relief Meetings. We meet the 3rd Saturday of every month at MLK from 1 to 3. And I have this wonderful, wonderful parent facilitating, Miss Deani Codwell, and another parent on the spectrum. So, you know, just really wanting to have a place where our moms feel safe to come, to share, to get resources, to, you know, get connections within the community with other mothers, and just having that shoulder to lean on that truly gets it. You know, we all have other
Support
female
groups.
friends. Exactly.
Awesome.
But, you know, it's so different because some things that most people will look at and say, well, what's the big deal? You know, we get it. It can be huge for us. So having that support. We're going to be launching its father component called FARM, Father's Autism Relief Meetings, and you know, our tagline will be cultivating relationships between fathers and sons on the spectrum, and again, have a wonderful facilitator leading that group who's also a father on the spectrum. And our biggest program, which I'm so excited about, is called Project CARE, Collaborative Autism Resources for Everyone. And in the past, traditionally, a lot of resources are kind of, you know, built in silos. They're targeting for a specific group. And for, you know, I've always said that because I couldn't get my son to fit the mold, I started trying to retool the mold. So for me, that really means getting out in the community, doing that educational piece so that other supports are available.
Right.
And one of the biggest and our first ally in this endeavor will be the Y of Springfield. So we're going to be doing some collaborative work with them to
they're
help
expanding
support.
too, which is awesome.
I'm so excited to be working
I saw
with
that
Andrea,
on the news.
Andrea Lee of the Mason Square Dunbar Y. So we're looking forward to really working together to build autism supports within the Y, to open up those services to our community and give another avenue for community inclusion for our families.
Yeah,
so,
that sounds wonderful.
Yeah, so, you know, and we're hoping to do a lot of work with, you know, workshops for our barbers, for our dentists, you know, all the services that other parents take for granted that we have such a difficult time accessing. I can say that I had such a wonderful experience just going into my son's barber shop and sharing that information with his barber and getting them to have some understanding about sensory issues, you know, why the noise or the vibration of the clippers, you know, made it difficult for my son to sit for a haircut. And they've embraced it, and Pastor Long of Progressive is the owner of the barber shop. And, you know, kudos to you, Pastor Long, and thank you so much for supporting Joshua and making that experience less traumatic, because it can be very traumatic, just something as simple as a haircut. So just getting out there in the community and doing as much education as possible, and definitely, you know, building those supports and having more members on Team Project CARE. So I'm so excited about that.
It is exciting, and it's. I hope and pray so many people, you know, if just get involved.
Exactly.
And, you know, if you think there's a problem there, if you have any of these type of concerns, or you heard something today that maybe, you know, jarred your thinking there, definitely check it out. Have your pediatrician look into it.
Exactly.
You know,
and, you
because
know,
the resources are out there and
there.
expanding.
And that's the thing with Project CARE. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel by by designing all these programs. There's a lot of programs out there. But for, you know, whatever reason, whether the facilitators were unfamiliar with autism, parents didn't feel like they were able to access it. So, you know, even if it's talking about Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, things of that nature, the Boys and Girls Club, we're hoping to do some work with them.
I was just getting ready to mention.
So I've actually
collaborating
talked to the club on Carew Street, and we're hoping to do some work, some trainings with them as well going forward. You know, we've been blessed to have, to see progress with other organizations such as the Black Men of Greater Springfield through their Du Bois Academy. My son's been a member for years now, and they've been so supportive and wanting to support that, that population of boys. So, you know, I don't want parents to feel like, well, the only thing there for me is the Special Olympics or some other group that's specifically for children with disabilities.
Right.
You know, we want to make your community accessible as wheelchair ramps made it for other people. So, you know, it's definitely all about education.
Yeah.
And
I think,
that's what
you
we're
know,
gonna
that's
do.
what it sounds like. It's more of an educational thing to be handled as opposed to looking at it as a disability or a disparity,
you know,
that debilitating thing.
Exactly.
It's,
you know, and I think parents need to feel that we are supported in the community, and we shouldn't be isolated. Like I said, it can be very isolating because we're so used to being judged when we're out in the community, and if our children are behaving a certain way, we think that people will automatically think it's
the parent's fault. The parent did it.
Exactly.
Or the parent's lacking in
You know,
teaching them something. Or
and those are the very parents that need that extra support.
Right.
So we're hoping that NSV will be that resource to really build those community support. April 18th at the MLK Center on 3 Rutland Street, and it's going to be so much fun. Like, I'm so excited this year. This is actually our 5th annual fair, and you know, we have some things that we didn't have before. We're going to have entertainment, music, food, vendors, service providers, and you're going to be there. So you know, and really trying to make it an event where parents don't have to feel like, well, I can't come because my child's not going to behave. You know, we want to make this a family event where parents can come, get information, connect with community providers, do some shopping, because we're going to have some
vending tables. They have awesome stuff there, trust
me.
me.
And just come out and have a fun day. We're going to have activities for the kids. And I'm not going to spoil it, but I am going to say that my son's dance team's going to be performing.
Oh boy,
So,
looking forward.
Shout out to Central's Gold Team.
All right.
So, you know, I'm so excited about this year, and I just want to make it the best possible fair that people will start to look forward to, and make it an event where parents can come and, you know, meet up like, you know, throwback to the Harambe, meet up like the old days and see people in your community and just be that support system that our families need, you know? So I'm excited about that. Really
and the last
excited.
couple of years when I've done this with you, it's been wonderful. I mean, everyone's just so nice, and you know, we just come together. And you know, MLK, by the way, stands for Martin Luther King Community Center, if you don't know about that. And it's located on 3 Rutland Street, which is like a side street off of State. And off of State and Wilbraham Road.
Exactly.
But yes, everyone comes together, and it's really, really nice. It's great. And there's all different tables with the different things going on, and we're going to have a blast.
And
I'm looking
you know,
forward.
I'm so excited because this is also the launch of our organization under MLK. I've been under MLK's, you know, umbrella for a few years now, but this is actually kind of like our formal launch of programming. And you know, I've been fortunate to have Ron Johnson be a mentor, be a support, and be such an advocate for our programming. So shout out to MLK, my MLK family, and really looking forward to really becoming a solid part of the MLK family in the community. So really
all
happy
right.
about that.
Shout out to MLK, y'all. Well, Jackie, I can't tell you enough how thankful I am that you have come down and spent this hour with us and informing us and blessing the community with all you're doing and helping people to get more involved in this awareness. I know many of you, as I have been reading in the papers and seeing online incidents where there's kids getting bullied and you know, really bad circumstances where deaths have occurred and stuff. And and then they come to find out a child's missing that has autism and things like that. So it's really a big growing concern, and it should have been for such a long time. So I'm really so proud. I've always been so proud of you. We grew up together, and it's like, you know, it's great when you grow up and your friends that you went to school with are doing great, wonderful things. And you're so proud of them. That's my girl. Yes, yes. We know each other, you know.
That's right.
But yeah, awesome, awesome, and a wonderful parenting.
Thank you.
God bless you
so much. So, and just wanted to say that please visit my website, www.online.com. I have a website store now. So that you can order the books. I have my contact information, and just quick shout out to my publicist, Dana Sweeney of DRS Media Consulting. Her number is 413-526-9539. You can reach her if you want me for a speaking engagement, for any trainings, for any book orders, any book orders. You know, please reach out to us. We're there, and I want to be a viable resource in the community. So hit my website.
All right. There's our show with Jacqueline William Hines today. And be sure and come out to the Autism Awareness Fair. It's going to be remarkable, just like Jackie is. Thank you all. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.